The development of the California high-speed rail megaproject is gaining momentum in the USA. Today, we will examine the circumstances and reasons and find out what went wrong with this megaproject. In fact, nothing significantly new has happened. Just the worst-case scenario for the growth of construction costs has materialized. Typically, this is a common risk for large projects, and companies always take into account all possible scenarios before starting construction. However, in this case, the cost escalation on one of the construction sites turned out to be so rapid that the construction companies were not prepared for such a scenario. This problem also revealed the tip of the iceberg of issues that the state authorities will have to face when constructing the next sections of the California high-speed rail. The question now is whether the state will be able to complete the ambitious project, which is considered the largest infrastructure project currently underway in the United States, using only available funding sources. Now, the California High-Speed Rail Authority will most likely have to go back to the state legislature and get approval for issuing additional bonds. At the same time, payments on already issued bonds over the next 30 years will amount to about $18 billion, including interest. These payments will be made from a special state fund that finances the development of the highway system, which means that in a sense, users of the highway system will be paying for the California high-speed rail project with lower quality road infrastructure over the next 30 years. And this will at some point raise questions about the efficiency and appropriateness of these investments. At the same time, a part of the $2.5 billion increase in spending for the creation of the Central Valley segment includes $600 million allocated for unforeseen problems, which will be financed by cutting the state's construction budget for other projects. The new head of the California High-Speed Rail Authority has already hastened to announce that the project will involve fewer expensive consultants, and the disclosure of contingency calculations is a step towards developing more transparency in the project. It was also stated that no new segments of the railway will be built until all the necessary land rights are obtained for such construction. However, experience shows that if project preparation was not done carefully enough, or if the project initiators deliberately distorted information on the project from the beginning, then no amount of transparency will save the project. It should be noted that the project is implemented mainly at the expense of the state budget, and the design-build model is used as the contractual model, meaning that the contracted companies are not responsible for the road's ongoing operation and maintenance. In 2017, a consortium consisting of DB International USA, Deutsche Bahn, Alternate Concepts, and HDR Inc. won the contract for engineering and consulting services, which was aimed at attracting advanced expertise for the implementation of the first stage of the project. According to the project initiator's plan, the high-speed rail will initially connect San Francisco and Los Angeles, reducing travel time between the cities to less than 3 hours. In the future, this system will also include branches to San Diego and Sacramento, with the possibility of integration with a separate high-speed rail project to Las Vegas. The total length of the railroad was originally planned to be over 8,000 miles, more than 13,000 kilometers. The total cost of the megaproject in 2012 was estimated at $68.4 billion. The project is being implemented by the state agency California High-Speed Rail Authority and financed from the state budget, as well as funds raised through the placement of a state bond loan. On November 4, 2008, a referendum was held in which the people of California voted in favor of a $9.95 billion state bond issue to fund the start of the high-speed rail project. Construction began in 2015, and it is planned to be fully completed by 2029. Now the focus is on the issues with the cost increase of one of the constructing sections of the new road, spanning 119 miles, 191 kilometers, in California's Central Valley. The cost of the project on this section has increased sharply by $2.8 billion, reaching $10.6 billion, 77% more than the initial estimates. The unexpected problems that cause the project cost to skyrocket are actually very typical of large infrastructure projects. The rising cost of land acquisition, utility relocation, the need for safety barriers where high-speed trains would operate near conventional freight rail lines, and stakeholder demands to address a host of issues. Interestingly, the second season of the popular TV series, True Detective, released in 2015, dealt with land issues where the new railroad is to pass through. This relates to the so-called unexpectedness of land issues. It is obvious that the project initiators, the California High-Speed Rail Authority itself, and their consultants significantly underestimated the cost of the project, and there are still issues ahead with the more difficult sections of high-speed rail that will pass through mountain ranges. Thus, the project will face even greater difficulties in the future. The Los Angeles Times article suggests that the cost underestimation was done intentionally to protect and promote the project, which is probably true. In the book Megaprojects and Risks, An Anatomy of Ambitions, data from a series of megaprojects were collected and analyzed, and the authors found that one of the reasons for the significant increase in the cost estimates of such projects, compared to the initial estimates, is the deliberate distortion by project initiators, and often their consultants, of assessments regarding the project's cost, implementation timelines, demand levels, societal benefits, and more, in order to make it more attractive. The logic is simple. Once a project is already underway and substantial resources have been invested, it becomes more difficult to stop it. Therefore, it is better to slightly exaggerate at the beginning to get the project started, rather than telling the bitter truth and risk losing the chance to launch the project. Let's take a closer look at the background of the project. Work on it began at the end of the last century, and by the early 2000s, it started taking shape. The plan envisioned constructing a 1,300-kilometer-long road with 24 stations in California by 2029. Trains would be able to reach speeds of 350 kilometers per hour, and the journey from Los Angeles to San Francisco could be completed in 2 hours and 40 minutes, compared to the current 7 hours by car or 10 hours by train. In 2008, under Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's leadership, a referendum was held in the state to allocate funds for this mega project. The project received support from 53% of voters, while 47% were against it. What are the main arguments in favor? First, correcting imbalances in the housing market. The California High-Speed Rail Authority provides the following figures in its annual report, the so-called business plan. The average cost to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco is $4,200 per month, while in Kings County it's $900. Traveling from one point to another on the high-speed train will take only 1 hour. Second, companies from Silicon Valley can establish their back offices in Central Valley cities and take advantage of cheaper labor resources. Third, California aims to reduce harmful emissions by 40%, and trains operating on electric traction are much more environmentally friendly than cars and planes. The California High-Speed Rail Authority presents the following data. China has built 26,900 kilometers of high-speed railways. Japan, 3,040 kilometers. Spain, 2,900 kilometers. France, 2,800 kilometers. While in the United States, only 54 kilometers of the Northeast Corridor, operated by Amtrak, can be recognized as high-speed. There are many claims to the project itself. The total cost at the time of the referendum was estimated at $40 billion, and in 2020 the cost doubled to $80 billion. However, in February 2023, authorities said the cost could eventually reach $105 billion. In 2017, Republican Assemblyman Jim Patterson from Fresno demanded an audit of the project's costs. The state auditor worked for nearly a year and found that the cost overrun on the constructed site alone exceeded $600 million. This was mainly because the California High-Speed Rail Authority began design and construction work before the settlement of all land relations. It was not necessary to conclude contracts with contractors before agreements were reached with local authorities, utilities, and other stakeholders. Timelines are the second issue. The project managers were supposed to publish a full environmental justification in 2017, but now the publication date has been pushed to 2023. The California High-Speed Rail Authority is litigating 6 lawsuits filed by opponents of the project, such as conservationists or landowners. Additionally, there is no clarity with funding. So far, the main work has been and is being carried out using funds from the federal government. $2.55 billion has already been spent, and a tranche of $929 was recently received. The state will allocate about $7 billion, and the agency hopes to get another $7 to $15 billion from cap and trade, attracting preferential financing for reducing harmful emissions. However, even if the forecast comes true, $80 billion is still not enough. But it's not all that bad. Recently, the California High-Speed Rail Authority announced that it won a $25 million new federal grant funding to advance its project beyond the currently constructed 119 miles and received an additional $1.3 billion in funding. The new grant helps finance the design of civil infrastructure, tracks and systems, as well as station platforms. According to the U.S. DOT statement, the project is expected to reduce vehicle miles traveled by 200 million miles per year, and the high-speed rail system will operate entirely on renewable energy sources, the statement said. In other good news, British architecture studio Foster Plus Partners and engineering firm Orup have presented designs for a series of stations in California that will serve the future high-speed rail line. Foster Plus Partners and Orup have designed the first 4 stations to serve the 171-mile, 275-kilometer segment of the California High-Speed Rail. All of this indicates that the U.S. authorities are not planning to abandon the project despite all the associated challenges. We hope that this, perhaps one of the most expensive mega projects of the 21st century, will still be implemented and that all the problems will be resolved. Write in the comments what you think about this railway, and share your opinion on the prospects for this mega project. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the Kero Show channel. Also watch our previous videos. See you next time.